5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just first thank Chairman Rogers, our ranking member, Mr. Dix, and my colleagues on the Appropriations Committee for their hard work in putting together this bill. I rise today to offer the Lee-Jones Amendment, joined by Representative Nabler, Woolsey, Oliver, Stark, Jesse Jackson Jr., Honda, Conyers, Grijalva, Paul, and Amash. And I want to thank each of my colleagues for joining Representative Jones and me on this important amendment. This amendment would end the war in Afghanistan by ending the funding for combat operation, but would provide funds to bring our troops home in a safe and orderly manner. And while I would have preferred to offer the Lee Amendment, which I have offered in the past, to fence off and to limit funding to the safe, orderly armed forces in Afghanistan, I was unable to do so today, given that we are debating on an appropriations bill. So I want to emphasize again this important point, that while this amendment cuts war funding, it cuts combat operation funding, but it does leave enough funding to provide for the safe and orderly return of all U.S. forces from Afghanistan. I speak today as the daughter of a lieutenant colonel who fought in several wars, one who knows the trauma and devastation of wars on families. I want to be clear that our servicemen and women have performed with incredible courage and commitment in Afghanistan. They're doing everything we ask them to do, but the truth is they have been put in an impossible position. They are fighting in a way with no military solution and no end in sight. Only a political and diplomatic solution and a regional stabilization strategy will end this war. In fact, this concern of war without end is why I opposed the resolution authorizing military force on September 14, 2001. It began a series of blank checks that we have been writing for nearly a decade now. There are few things that we know with certainty regarding the situation in Afghanistan. We know that corruption persists unabated and in many cases has been fueled by the U.S. occupation and influx of foreign cash. President Karzai has proven himself time and time again unwilling or at least unable to meaningfully root out corruption within his own administration. We know that the United States troop presence has increased from 4,000 troops in 2002 to almost 100,000 in 2011. At the same time, military and civilian casualties have increased at record rates and violence is on the rise. We also know that al-Qaeda's presence in Afghanistan has been all but eliminated, and Osama bin Laden is dead. It's not feasible or in our national security interest to address this threat through a military-first, boots-on-the-ground strategy in Afghanistan. And we know, as military and foreign policy experts from across the political spectrum have told us repeatedly, that the situation in Afghanistan will not be resolved by a military solution. We need to bring our troops home safely and swiftly, and that's why I'm offering this amendment. This war is costing us too much. With over 1,600 troops killed and tens of thousands more seriously wounded in Afghanistan, the human toll continues to mount every day. And we've already spent over $400 billion fighting in Afghanistan. It's past time to admit that we can no longer afford to send more blank checks for a war without end. The United States has squandered more than $1.1 trillion on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Economists estimate that the total direct and indirect costs of these two wars by their end may total as much as $6 trillion. With no military solution, we need to redirect these funds to job creation and supporting those efforts for the most vulnerable, including those who have been unemployed for over 2 years and have no more unemployment benefits. While we spend $2 billion a week, mind you, $2 billion a week on this decade-long war, critical programs like Medicare are on the chopping block as we seek to get our nation's finances in order. The American people are sick and tired of this war and the massive, unending spending that it requires. Just last month, the United States Conference of Mayors passed a resolution to end the wars and to use the savings to build bridges and schools and infrastructure here at home where it is needed. The resolution specifically calls on the President and the United States Congress to end the wars as soon as strategically possible and bring these war dollars home to meet vital human needs, promote job creation, rebuild our infrastructure, aid municipal and state governments, and develop a new economy based on renewable, sustainable energy and reduce the federal debt. We need to bring our troops back and use the savings to address our nation's fiscal challenges. The American people recognize this. It's time to say that enough is enough. It's time to begin the safe and orderly withdrawal of United States troops from Afghanistan. This amendment does just that by ending the funding of combat operation in Afghanistan while maintaining funds for a safe and orderly withdrawal. This is not a cut and run amendment. This is a responsible amendment to bring our troops home now. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on this amendment, helping bring our servicemen and women home safely and ending the war in Afghanistan. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I reserve the balance of my time.